Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbifs Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, top 14, Pro Liga, National, the French national team, even a bit of the under-20s, and why not the sevens as well, and of course the brilliant towns, cities, cuisine, bars, fans, everything else in between that makes French rugby such a magical affair. Rob, you've gone back to the trucker cap. I always forget how you pronounce it.
J-O-P Conflon Canigou.
Nice.
Just because it's slightly linked to something I've got in the Petit Fours later, ever so slightly.
Ever so slightly. That sounds like it could be incredibly tenuous.
It's kind of tenuous. How are you, Richard? We are recording this on Wednesday evening because you have been busy with work and it has very much got in the way of recording. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, we're making moves, getting there. It's been a busy-ish period and just life getting in the way of all the dull bits. But I've been consoling myself in the knowledge that there are a few trip irons in the fire for when when autumn comes round and French rugby is fully back on our screens and back on our travel agendas. So yeah, it's been keeping me going.
Yeah, very excited when you sent me a message with the potential itinerary for the mid-September earlier today. I thought you were knee deep in work, and there you are, kind of doing double hatting and doing a little itinerary.
It's amazing
for us as Rosbifs.
It's amazing when you're knee deep in work how much you can achieve in like a sort of 6-minute break when you're trying to distract yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's we'll share details of that at a later date because nothing in the diary just yet. What's been happening your end?
Not a great deal. I'm semi back playing cricket. We saw each other yesterday and at the weekend. I won't go into the details of my performance on Saturday versus your performance. But let's just say I am currently at a much, much lower standard.
Nice. For Rob's being very well, he's not being modest about my performance with the bat on Saturdays. Those who are cricket inclined, I carved my 5th ball straight to gully and had the long slow walk off, whereas Rob swiveled and drove and caressed his way to what's been described as an Ian Bell like half century on a testing wicket against one of the better attacks in the south of England. So yeah, he's being very, very coy. I might have
I was
hammed that
playing,
up
I
a
was
little
playing,
bit.
I was playing fifth 11, and the fielding was generous, both ground fielding and catching. Let's just put it that way.
Before we get into the meaty business, the rugby. Did you see? So we've got a mutual friend who we sort of sometimes play cricket with. He can be quite hard to pin down, but I think we both briefly saw him yesterday trying to have a run around and a bit of a practice. Did he tell you the story about who his mate had been playing against the weekend before?
Yes, former England footballer.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, Gareth Barry's a good cricketer, now lingering in the lower reaches of some league in Warwickshire or something. I'm not quite sure what the what might the equivalent be in, like, where are you going to see, I don't know, like Damian Try rocking up? Like, what summer
Yeah,
sport is he going to be? Like a bit of volleyball or something like that? Turn up for a third, like, what would it be? A third four game of beach volleyball, and
yeah.
I don't know, Aurelien Rougeries there. Who, like, yeah.
So a couple of ones on this before we get really sidetracked. The name Rob Henderson came up at the weekend. Former Lion centre has apparently moved clubs in Surrey cricket.
Ah,
I can't remember where to or from, but apparently a very keen cricketer. And I know Bob Skinstad was played in the Surrey lower reaches. Well, a big club in the lower teams of one of the big clubs in Surrey. I
yeah.
imagine that is quite a good teammate to have. I feel like that would be quite a lot of fun.
I did also see, and sorry to round this off, it's ridiculous. It's amazing how many stories there are about this. I saw Northampton Saints posted a couple of days ago that over the weekend for Stratford upon Avon's second 11 or something, George Hendy, who I believe was man of the match in the Premiership final off
Yeah,
the
he was.
bench,
Yeah,
scored a double hundred.
bloody hell.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's quite something. Tom Curry's a big. Anyway, right, let's not go
yeah,
down this. We
let's
could be
not
here for
go down
hours.
it. Um, Shall we? What do you want to start? Under 20s or sevens?
Well, we are recording Wednesday evening, so
Hot
you
off the
have just
press.
watched. Yeah, you have just watched some of the sevens, haven't you?
Yeah, I saw the end of the first half and most of the second half. I say that like it's some sort of I was really put out to watch it. It was like 9 minutes of
Yeah.
rugby. Um, France, uh, with vociferous support behind them, a fully packed out
How good
Stade de
does the
France.
pitch look as well?
Yeah, like almost too immaculate.
Like I was kind of like, have they CGI'd it, or have they like
Yeah,
turfed it Astro or something like that? Because it's immaculate.
yeah, it's very, very clean. But France are through to the quarterfinals. They've got another game in their group tomorrow against Fiji. Obviously, we
Quite a
care
big
about
game
this
that.
greatly.
Quite a big game.
It is, but I think they're both through because Fiji spanked Uruguay and the USA, whereas France
USA.
drew with the USA and beat Uruguay by a score, and it was only down to I forget the guy's name, but he was apparently he's part of the Rio 7 squad. Big turnover, France down to 6 men attacking scrum in the 22, which I don't watch much sevens, but that feels like try time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So yeah, so they've made it through. Antoine Dupont scored his inaugural Olympic try, but for the most part, I think they've flattered to deceive in the 28 minutes they've played thus far.
He was. I watched the USA game. I think he played up until about 2-3 minutes to go. He was wearing number 11, which really threw me. I was like looking out for number 9. And he was brilliant. I mean, he was ever I kind of expected, I don't know why, but I don't know, I didn't expect for him to be playing scrum half, as it were, and to be running the show. But he kind of was. There was one outrageous offload which he set up a try, and it was knocked out as it went over the line. By one of the USA players, but it was a brilliant kind of what we used to call at school Gregan ball, where you kind of flip it back inside off the base of a ruck when you go against kind of the direction you're going in. But yeah, he did a few kind of ridiculous stuff. I think he probably stands out because I know him, but like there was a pretty freak athlete on the wing called something Joseph, and I don't think he's related to Jordan Joseph.
Oh yeah, not like double barreled. He scored a
Yeah,
cracking try like quick, and he's
and
only
he was
20,
he was
21.
yeah, and he was matching Perry Baker for wheels at one point, so he looked pretty sharp. And but not brother of Jordan Joseph, but there was the brother of a top 14 player and French international,
I did see that.
Swan
Ryan
Rabage.
Rabage.
Ryan Rabage, yeah.
Yeah, who did play a couple of games for Toulon this year. I saw
Oh, did
literally
he?
two
Okay.
on the wing. Yeah, so it must be something about him. So yeah, we'll
On
keep
the
an eye out. I
wing.
guess
He's quite a big bloke.
I'm pretty sure he was on the wing. I might have got
Yeah,
that
fair.
wrong.
Most Sevens players do kind of slot in on the wing, don't they?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out. It could be quite cool, the Fiji game, because they have come in hot. Sadly, no, certainly in the first game at least, Josiah Rice-Suk, no game time for him,
Oh.
which is gutting. But he'll be there. He'll be there to lift whatever needs. You'd imagine in the line out.
Do you reckon? So
He's your man.
I noticed that the refs have got names on the back of their shirt. Do you reckon
Yeah.
he's there to like? That's so that when Josiah Rice-Suk lifts up the referee as Fiji win the gold medal, that people can clearly see that it's Adam Leal that he's lifting up.
Let's hope so. Yeah, let's hope so. Look, I know it was rogue. I know he got banned. I still stand by. It's one of my favorite things I've ever seen.
It's the best
It's
red card
incredible.
ever. It's the
It
best red
is the
card
best
ever.
red card of all time. It could be the best. Could be the best way to win a gold medal. So yeah, we'll see how they get on against Fiji. They're through to the quarters. Remains to be seen who they'll play. And by the time we get together next week, it'll all be done. Which is always the Olympics, kind of, because it's such a monumental and momentous event, and you hear of the sacrifice, the training that goes into it. It's always, it just amazes me, like the speed at which some of these events go by, and it's done, and suddenly the Sevens is wrapped up 2 days after the opening ceremony. It's interesting, but
I've got real issues with it starting before the opening ceremony. Like
it's a bit left field, isn't it?
it's just, I think it's happened. Definitely happened before with the football. Also, France didn't have to qualify. I didn't realize that. So they've been able to plan for this for 4 years, which I imagine is quite helpful. I think they're one of the favourites, as far as I know.
They were before the tournament. They were the favourite.
Oh, okay. Presumably off the back of their recent form, more than anything else.
Correct. Yeah.
Although Fiji, you'd imagine, going to be up there, and the All Blacks, or whatever they're called.
You'd have thought so.
The Sevens.
So yeah, we'll see how they get on. It would be pretty cool if they got a bit further. The 20s is done. The 15-a-side code is finally wrapped up as of last Friday. And it wasn't a particularly happy day out for the France under-20s. Did you see much of it?
I've seen most of it, although perhaps wasn't fully paying attention for all of it. But yeah, it was a weird old game, I thought. It was France played some really good rugby and just seemed to didn't score any points. And England were quite clinical. We kind of mentioned it, like the scrum dominance is just, England won because of the scrum. They got scrum penalties the whole game. They got territory off the back of them. They got penalties off the back of them that were kickable. They dominated them up front, maul time and kind of in the close fringes. Just so physical. Yeah, it's strange seeing a kind of French side of any sort being out-muscled like that. So even in the Sevens, they were quite a physical Sevens side, I thought. But yeah, I think because in the Six Nations, I don't remember the scrum being such a discrepancy. Now that might be because Pasolo Tuolangi was playing second row, so it was
Maybe.
perhaps balanced it out a wee bit. But yeah, I think it just seemed to be on another level, the scrum.
Yeah. It was. I know we discussed it a little bit last week, but there were a couple of somewhat wiser commentators than certainly myself who were commenting on, I think, just how much of a not just a bit dominant, but we're talking like real outlier in terms of scrum and forward dominance. Not they've got the nudge, but like this is almost unfair in terms of the power of
Yeah.
their set piece, and like fair play. And from an England perspective, it's something that they bloody need as well. So yeah, and I know it's we're not here to talk about England too much, but with a French tilt, Junior Kapoku.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to get too ahead of yourself with these guys, but Racing signed him. He hadn't played a professional game, I don't think, when he got plucked out of Exeter, which was straight out of school from somewhere associated with the Saracens Academy, and he's just like it's I don't know. It doesn't look fair. Like it just doesn't. He's so powerful. And you just wonder what the ceiling is. He hasn't played a huge amount. Like you would assume he's going to be a pretty decent part of Racing's plans next year. Like he's got to be starting at some
You'd
point,
like to
isn't
think
it?
so, wouldn't you? Yeah. They're not overly blessed at second row, but they're not overly blessed with physical specimens in. Although, as we've seen, actually, no, Jordan Joseph is massive in that at that level, but like, it's quite a big step up, from the under-20s physically to. Although Castro Ferreira has kind of looked really physical in top 14, perhaps not quite at the level, but he is 20, so.
Yeah,
If you compare him for Toulouse in top 14 versus Castro Ferreira in this game, where he was basically like, I don't know, some sort of cross between like Heinrich Brasseau and Pierre Spies. Like he was just like all action, did everything. He won about 3 turnovers, really physical. He did get a yellow card as well, which I think was incredibly harsh. Not a well, letter of the law, yellow card. Not a lot he could have done about it though. But yeah, I guess Junior Kapoku, I would like to see him step up. I think that was my thing, kind of thinking about it today, because in terms of the France players, we've said most of what we would want to say in terms of
yeah,
the good players are the ones that we referenced. I think Ferte, I realised in this game, is absolutely rapid. He kind of looks so relaxed at fullback at any point because kind of trusts his pace to get him out of trouble. But yeah, the guys to look out for are a couple of those brief players. So Mathis Ferte playing 15 wing, 13 9. Leo Carbonneau 9. We hopefully will see a bit of Joe Careba at back row for Toulon this year, although I think he might move. There was a rumor of that. Castro Ferreira, I think, will be really challenging for a starting role, although easier said than done at Toulouse. I think that's kind of it. I don't think the kind of front rowers. I think Barnabé Massa will start at Clermont, actually. That'll be interesting to see. I don't think Lino Julien will, and perhaps some of the wingers will quite be there. I think Takola has played quite the 12s, played quite a lot of Van in Pro D2 last season. So it'd be interesting to see if he plays in the top 14.
yeah, yeah. I mean, lest we forget as well how many of potential under-20s were away with the senior squad. So I think in spite of that result, the future is, well, unsurprisingly, incredibly bright for that crop of players.
Also,
and
it has
fair
to be
play
said,
to England too.
Their skill levels were, so the one that got chalked off, the like a slight kind of knock on where Castro Ferreira kind of knocks it into his own player. That is a proper coast to coast width of the pitch. Everyone involved try. Like the skill levels of front rowers, second rowers, is just incredible. Like the fix and pass, running lines, all of that from everyone is amazing. And the actual try they did score again was just electric. Biasotto, I think, has the gas at the start. And just, the support lines are all rapid. Furte is kind of playing at 9 at that point, but Castro Ferreira is involved in everything. That was a freakishly good try. So you'd imagine as they kind of get bigger, there's a bit more development in there, I'd say.
You think so? Right. We're going to take a few moments and we're going to come back.
Just before we go, there was one magical moment shortly after Matisse Castro Ferreira got yellow carded on the France 5-meter line where England had a scrum and Leo Carbonneau, all 5'7" and 70 kilos of him, packed down at number 8 to try and ward off the threat of the England scrum. First scrum, they actually held him out. So Carbonneau, doing his bit.
Hybrid.
And then second one, there was a pushover try. But yeah.
There we go. Right. We'll be back in a sec. We're going to have a stab at the top 14 team of the season. Join us for that in a moment. So the top 14 is, say it's long behind us. It's a couple of weeks behind us. It's taken us a few weeks to get over just what happened in that final. And it's not that many weeks away as well. But we thought we would have a little bit of reflection. We've been kind of going back and forth over WhatsApp on this. Is it a good idea? Is it too nerdy? Is it going to work? I don't know. But Rob, talk us through it. How are we going to try out of the however many games, however many players, how are we going to go through and work out the Rosbif Rugby top 14 team of the season?
Well, I should say that although we have dwelled on it, the official top 14 social media accounts, the LNR, whatever, have released their team of the season only last Wednesday, I think. So we're less than a week away from that. And I think it's fan voted. They were giving a short list of 5 players for each position, and those who had a LNR or top 14 or whatever it is, My Rugby account, could vote. So it is fan voted, and it has the hallmarks of genuine fans. No, sorry. It has genuine hallmarks of fans voting as opposed to any experts, because as you see when we go through it.
Backhanded.
No, it's just like, I've got a rugby account. I've heard of him. He's going in. Like, some of the players, yes, have been very good. Some of the players have barely played. Some of the players have not been that great when they have played, but they are big name international players, and therefore they have seemingly walked into the top 14 team of the season, while others have been slogging it August to June. August to June.
Yeah, near enough.
Some slogged it out for 20 plus games in an 11-month season and barely got a look in. So yeah. But I've kind of done mine. I've looked at the short list of players and chosen from that. It does help you whittle it down. Although a couple of positions I thought, interesting. There's a few people missing. So I've got a wild card or two that I'm gonna chuck in there.
Yeah, so I've got a couple that are, I don't think they are massive wild cards, but I put mine together and I got to about 10 that I was fairly happy with. I then got to about 14, which I was very happy with. And then I sort of had to go back and I did like a bit of a self-imposed rule, which I don't know how you feel about this, but I felt that a player should have played 15 games out of the potential 30 if you played or 29 if you play all the. Rob is currently wrestling with a 0% Guinness that appears to have exploded all over his table. for the listeners. So I then had to go and rework a little bit of it because there were one or two fairly big names who did not hit my 15 game threshold. So
I think that's fair enough because, as I just said, there was my main criticism of the kind of official one was that a lot of players had barely played, and I think if you're doing a team of the season, you can't. There's always recency bias in teams of the season, which I try and counter, and also I think you've got to be across the whole season, which I think seems fair. Certainly on the players that, as I said, slogged it out for some of the August heat, which I imagine wasn't that fun.
fair enough. So how do we want to do this? Do we want to go through our? We're going to go through our front rows. Are we going to go through Should we go through our respective front rows, see where we get to, and if we have to revisit the nominees, we go from there.
Okay. So do we want to do the official one first?
Go on, give us have you got that to hand? Do you want to give us a
Yeah.
rundown of the official one?
The official front row.
Do you want to just say Toulouse, which I believe was the
No, I'm going to go France.
Okay.
Cyril Bay, Piatto Malvaca, Weenie Antonio was the top 14 official team this season. Cyril Bay with 5 starts and from 12 appearances. Piatto Malvaca from 6 starts, 12 appearances. That includes the final games. So Piatto Malvaca in the regular season played 10 games with 4 starts.
Yeah.
And he got in the team this season. Don't get me wrong, I'm as big a fan of Piatto Malvaca as anyone, but that just seems
not today, not for this.
No.
Fair. Okay. Talk me through your front row.
My front row is from Lyon, Jerome Ray. I've gone Maxime Lamotte at hooker and Becca Gigashvili at tight head. What is yours?
So I was saying earlier, loose head was the one I struggled with the most, and I did have to refer back to the nominations. I went for Danny Priso because I liked how somebody who sort of faded from the international scene was, I thought, a pretty key part of a Toulon side that certainly from the halfway mark turned a bit of a corner. I also went for Max.
I very nearly went Danny Priso because I was looking at it and you had Bai, who I thought was unselectable for lack of game time. Benarouz, who's rubbish. And played quite a lot of hooker.
Benarouz, who barely didn't start either.
Yeah,
it was started like hooker. 4 games. Yeah.
Edusio, I think Montpellier were a bit up and down, and then it was between Priso and Jerome Ray, and I ended up with quite a lot of Toulon players in my team, so I felt felt wrong. And the Lyon pack was brilliant all year,
Powerful.
And every game that Jerome Ray started at home, Lyon won. I know that's
nice.
Correlation and causation.
No,
bit of issues there, but
I'm happy with that.
I'm amazed neither of the Stade Francais loose heads got in there on the list. Moses O'Neill or Abramashvili. I think mainly because they rotate them quite a lot. Neither of them started loads of games, but Stade Francais pack was so good. I couldn't believe the lack of Stade Francais players in the pack generally nominations, given they finished second in the league? Yeah, they did finish second in the league. Yeah,
that's fair. I also went Maxime Lamotte. I feel like we're both big fans. And tight head, I know it was a bit of a sad end.
Did you nearly go Barlow at hooker?
I really like Barlow, and I think he was fabulous in Argentina. But I think Lamotte was second half of the season in particular, or pretty much every game I saw, and I probably watched Bordeaux probably more than any other side actually. But I feel he was, when Bordeaux were good, he was incredibly influential. I think he's a hell of a player.
25 games, 19 starts, 7 tries.
Decent effort, impressive, isn't it? And I went at tight head, say a bit of a sad end to the year, but I still think that Big Ben Tamafuna is just such an influential part of that Bordeaux side. And I think he's objectively still probably the best tight head in the league. That was mine.
I think that's fair. I think I was perhaps tainted by some of the Champions Cup performances, maybe. I went Gigashvili for similar reasons for why you went to for Lamont, I think I ended up watching quite a lot of Toulon last year. And I thought he was great all year. Like their pack went pretty well generally, which is why I nearly put Priso in. But
Fair.
I'd be happy with Ben Tamafuna. Now you've when I think of some of the performances he put in the big games in the top 14, he was just all action. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you Ray from Leon, and I think it's fair that someone in that pack is reflected. We'll agree on Lamoth, and we'll take Big Ben. Happy with that?
Happy with that.
Second row. Before we say this, I reckon we might have the same two here, because I feel like we've discussed them both a lot, and I just feel we might not have done. This could be bollocks. I feel like we might have landed on the same two.
So the official ones were Thibaut Flamand, again, France, and Tom Staniforth, which was nice to see. But Flamand, 12 start. I'm pretty sure his first top 14 start was the one I was at. Or the first top 14 game was the one I was at, which was like March.
That was March, wasn't it? Yeah.
So it seems very unfair that he's kind of slipped in. As good as he was in the playoffs. Yeah. Who have you gone for?
My pair.
Yeah.
So I've got Staniforth from Cast.
Yeah.
And Dave Ribbons.
I've also gone Dave Ribbons and Tom Staniforth.
There we go.
Tom Staniforth played 25 games, 24 starts out of 26. Because obviously Cast didn't go to the playoffs. That is phenomenal. There's the other options for tight headlock, like Miafu, Skelton, Taufifenua, Pasolo Tuolangi, have all been very good this year.
Yeah.
Miafu was obviously, he was injured quite a lot. His best games came in the Champions Cup. Skelton was very good, especially when La Rochelle were rubbish.
Yeah.
Pasolo Tuolangi, first half of the season was basically Perpignan's only bright hope. Roman Tau was just a big part of that scrum. Paul Gabriag, I thought was close at loose headlock. I very nearly went for him. And I love Thomas Sate at Bayonne, but not quite enough games. I think but when he did play, I thought he was a real nuts and bolts player, did everything for Bayonne. But yeah.
Yeah. And
Agreement Richards.
And Ribbons was just brilliant throughout. I think he's a phenomenal player. Could be good things going on at Toulon. Easy, second row. Back row, trickier.
Yeah, especially because they kind of mucked it up a bit with blindside flanker and open side flanker, and yeah, it was tough. The official back row was Sekou Makalu, Esteban Abadi, and Greg Aldrit. How do you feel about that?
I love Makalu. He's not in my side, but I love him. Abadi had a pretty good year, but I think others were better. And all I'd say for Aldrit, and he's not in my team, and I know he didn't play that many games. He was pretty good when he came in, and him getting in the side was like they brought him back from his break a bit earlier than hoped, I think, didn't they? Because they were in the mire at La Rochelle, and it did seem to spark things off. But he only played, I think, 12 games, so doesn't matter. Didn't make my threshold.
I also think I watched a lot. The La Rochelle games I watched, they were generally terrible, with the exception of kind of the playoffs.
The game at Toulon.
Yeah. And I just couldn't get the image out of my head of that one where he's dawdling back and Damian Penaud pounces. I just couldn't get that out. That was my abiding memory of Greg Aldrit for La Rochelle this season. I know he did some great stuff, and I love Greg Aldrit, but yeah, not for me. What did you go for then? So you didn't go Makalu, which has surprised me.
No, I love Makalu. I thought, we've just said he wasn't maybe part of a great team. I like Cancourier, so I had him in there in the back row. I had Rumat just shading it over to Vita Tafu at 8. And then it was a bit of a toss-up for me between Diaby and Nucci. I went Nucci, which I think is maybe like, I don't know, he was pretty influential in a not great side. I think this is a weird one because at the back row, the showpiece back row players are the guys at Toulouse, basically, aren't they? Like
Yeah.
I went Willis, but he played 14 games. The Willis was
Oh
pretty
no.
much so yeah, so that's what I went for. It's a little bit of a rogue not back three, back row.
Went tempted by Castro, 9 tries and 9
I
starts. 15
was I
games.
was tempted by Castro.
It's only
But
one of the breakout players halfway through the season. For sure.
yeah. So yeah, Cancourier, Ruma, Nucci.
So I'm amazed you didn't go Makalou. I went for Makalou because he is the X Factor player in a fairly boring team that was very successful. He was also unreal at line out time. Like he is just ridiculous at line out time in a very, very good line out side, attack and defense. I went for Diaby at 7.
Fair.
Because I think his work rate is brilliant. I was very close to going Nucci on that as well. But I just thought Diaby I kind of only became aware of Nucci around like December time, whereas I thought Diaby was great throughout. I should have gone to Tavita Tafu actually, because I thought he was great in top 14, but I went for Oviedo. Perhaps biased by his performance last weekend, or whenever it was 2 weekends ago against France. But the fact that when I went to Perpignan, they were like, he has been our player of the season. And if you look at that resurgence after Christmas for Perpignan, I think probably merits it.
Fair.
And I do like Concorrier. I thought Concorrier was very good this year, but I just think Makalou is just a Concorrier with bells on.
Yeah. Look, I tell you what, I say I'm a massive Makalou fan, and I think you're probably right. I'll give you Makalou. I'm happy to settle on that.
Are we going Diaby then at 7?
Give me Nucci. Give me Nucci, and you can pick the 8.
Well, I was going to go for, if we're picking a joint one, we should probably go to Tafu.
He was brilliant. Again, I feel like I saw a lot of Bordeaux, and he was just again so influential. So I'm happy for him I'm happy to have him at 8 if you are.
Yeah.
Sweet. So let's have a quick rundown of the pack. Have you been taking notes?
No, I'm hoping you have.
So we went Lucas Ray.
Jerome Ray. Lucas Ray's the hooker at Poe.
Sorry, I stand corrected. Sorry, when you said that, I was like, is that Lucas Ray plays on like the wing for Everton or something? I was like, oh no. Jerome Ray. Near enough. Jerome Ray. We went Maxime Lamoth. Universal decision. Ben Tamafuna. Ribbons. Tom Staniforth. Makalou. Lenny Nucci. Tavita Tafu.
Pretty good side that.
That is quite good.
Across the season.
Nice balance.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Okay, into the backs. 9.
Right. Well, this is tough, isn't it? Needless to say, the fan vote, Richard, went to, who do you think?
Dimitri Yashvili.
Antoine Dupont, with his 14 games in the top 14.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even meet your criteria, Rich.
Nope.
9 starts, 6 tries. He was the scrum half of the year in the top 14. However, he didn't play all of those 14 games or those 9 starts as a 9. So, yeah, I've got issues with that for starters as well. But who did you go for?
I mean, this is really like genuinely tough because, as we've said a million times, the strength at 9 is wild. And I based it on one big statistical outlier, that being number of tries scored, and the second being that I've always had a real soft spot for this player, and it's Baptiste Couilloux.
I have also gone for Baptiste Couilloux.
Yeah.
I very, very nearly threw in former teammate of Zach Farrant's, Paul Grau, as a wild card, because he played a lot of games at 9 for Toulouse. He
Yeah.
had 19 starts at 9 for
Was
Toulouse.
it that many?
Yeah, 23
Wow.
games, 19 starts. Yeah. Well, I guess he must have played. Think how many games Antoine Dupont missed. Like World Cup, sevens,
Yeah.
Six Nations. Oh no, he didn't play Six Nations. But yeah, I just think he was unlucky to miss out on a nomination. Our man Maxime Lucu was brilliant in the top 14 this season.
Yeah, he was.
As was Baptiste Saran, as was Nolan Le Garrec, who was basically the kind of only good player for Racing at various points. Baptiste Junot, not even in the frame, is ridiculous, but it has to be Kuyu.
Yeah.
It has 17 tries is just in 22 games.
It's astonishing.
On the like coming back from an injury as well.
And people, I sometimes feel like people like to be a bit controversial about, try scoring. Maybe it doesn't mean it all. Like Quiu has it all, and he scores loads of tries. Like, what more do you want? Bit more, some more. What's the word?
Agreement.
Yeah, unanimous decisions.
I thought you were going to go. You told me you were going off vibes, and I was going off spreadsheets and statistics.
Yeah, well, it turns out that maybe the vibes are closer to the statistics than we thought.
Yeah.
Right, Quiu is in 10.
10. So
quite tricky, I think.
Tricky. I'm amazed. I'm amazed you didn't go for who I've gone for. If you have gone for someone different, but the official one was Tomás Ramos, which is in that feels like they're trying to get him in the team.
Yeah, squeeze him in.
But because he was very good, and when he played at 10, he was brilliant. But you could equally have Juan Cruz Malia there if you're going to go for a Toulouse 10, or actually no, Antoine didn't play enough at 10. But so Ramos played all over the place. He didn't quite play enough games either, did he? How many games did he play? 13, 7 at fly half. I think that's not okay when you've got someone like Cami Lopez who had played every single game, played the most amount of minutes, wasn't even in the nominations. Unreal. But who did you go for?
It was between two for me. One who you've just mentioned, which is Camille Lopez, but I had Joe Simmons MBE shading it.
I had the highest point scorer in the top 14 this season. Joe Simmons MBE. With absolute, that's out of statistics. That's not even without any Poe bias, any semi-Exeter bias. That was purely stats based, and he just flings it wide, which is great to see.
Yeah, I think for me, like you can't discount the value of a goal kicker, and he scored that many points. But
and they really like when other people were kicking ahead instead of him, or when he was on the bench or in the bin or injured, Poe really struggled. So
yeah,
their game plan had to change without him in the side.
Yeah, and I think also just impact quickly, particularly at the start of the year. I know they faded a bit, but like he'd kind of gone off the boil. He was a little bit out of favour, rightly or wrongly, when he left Exeter and came in and made a massive impression straight away in a team that, had their best run in living memory in the top 14 until it just didn't fall apart, but just petered out a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
Not just a points thing. If you go in like that as a 10 in your first season in French rugby, I think it's a pretty phenomenal achievement, actually.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Quiu and Simmons make up the halfbacks. Centres, who have you got on your list? Who's your 12 and 13?
The official one is Yoram Moefana at 12 and Jeremy Ward at 13. My initial thought on this was Jeremy Ward plays as 12 and Marchant plays as 13. But he had 22 starts and 10 of them were at 12. So he actually did play at 13 a little bit more.
Yeah.
Which is fair, which is tricky because I would like to have gone Ward at 12, Deporter at 13, because I thought Deporter was brilliant, especially in the middle part of the season, like during the Six Nations or build up to Six Nations, for him to earn that cap ahead of the likes of Gaetan, Cost.
Yeah.
kind of to leapfrog a couple of other really talented players just showed how good his form was. And he became part of what, that backline lit up the top 14 this season. And he was, before this season, we hadn't heard of him. And kind of became like a name that rolled off the tongue with all the others.
So you went...
But I have gone
Ooh.
Jeremy Ward at 13 because I stuck to the shortlist, and I've gone Serfontaine at 12.
Got exactly the same.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Richard.
Yeah, I hadn't realised that I hadn't realised that Ward had played that many games at 12. I thought, I know Marching, but I know they pushed him out to the wing quite a bit. And I think Jan Serfontaine, in a misfiring side, every time I saw him play, he looked like the best outside back in that side by a mile.
He won top 14 player of the season in a month that they lost like 3 out of 4 games.
Yeah.
It was around that time when they were just starting to turn the corner. He won top 14 player of the month.
He was immense. And I think like kind of similar, obviously different ends of the table, but similar seasons, I think, is like the real standout back. Perhaps not being who you'd think it might be in those sides. I feel like Jeremy Ward has to be in. I think he was just definitely amazing, whether at 12 or... And I think if you're being neat and on the kind of where they played most of their games, I feel like that 12 is pretty fair.
Especially as there wasn't an abundance of 12 options. I really like Martok at Bayonne.
Yeah.
Mawala, when he played, was brilliant, as you'd expect him to be, but he had a lot of injuries this year.
Yeah.
Peter Aki, not on the list, is quite something, to be honest. I don't know how that happened. And I think that's kind of... There's no real other standouts, I don't think. Peter Aki is brilliant.
Yeah. But I'm happy with... Well, we're both happy with Serfontaine and Ward.
I was more than willing to shift Ward to 12, partly because the options at 13 were so much more abundant, because you had like Fine, Nuku, you
costs.
Arguably, you could have had more Fana at 13 as well as Deporter, Gaeton, Costs.
Right.
Left wing. I went
for...
I did not agree with Louis Bielbiaré.
No,
as good as he was at various points, he had 15 games, but only 5 tries. And if you look at the other wingers and other nominees, that's quite a bit lower than everyone else. Well, 5 tries, he didn't play that many games, which is part of it. But I didn't think he played enough. It felt like he didn't play enough and didn't do enough. He was kind of outshone a little. He did some ridiculous things, but he was kind of outshone by other players in that back line. So I went with Matisse Lebel.
Lebel had a great end to the year. I
think is the first Toulouse player in our team, isn't
he? Yeah, or at least, well, from you, I think I went Ruma initially at 8. I went for Raka.
Okay, yeah,
because he's just, when it clicks, it's just so good. And I think, again, maybe a slightly quiet year last year. I thought when it was going well, he was just an absolute monster. Should we go to the right wing and then work out how we're going to split them?
Yeah, go on then. I'm surprised you didn't go for Hulu.
Hulu was
industrious.
Hulu was on my list before I saw the things, but he was very much third. Lovely player, but there's some pretty serious quality above him.
The right wing, my initial thought of this is, they've picked another France player in Damien Penaud, but if you think about it, he was ridiculous. He scored 4 tries in his first half at home. I've got Penaud. I agreed with that and went for Penaud, but I would love to have picked Veradamu. He was amazing at various points with Perpignan. And obviously, goes without saying that we would have both, I'm sure, loved to have picked Teo Atasogbe. 26 games out of 26 for a 19-year-old is insane. 25
decent
starts.
shift.
7 tries, but he's not just about the tries. He's about, that's not a great strike rate, but he's about so much more than that.
Yeah.
Vibes. If you were picking purely on vibes, Rich, I think you'd probably still go Damian Penaud.
100%. On the left wing, Labelle, Raka.
I quite like the idea, now we're down here, that we could potentially do a full top 14 team of the season without a single Toulouse player in it.
Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
When I was going through this, my initial draft earlier had 11 of the teams represented. And I tried to work it to get, I think it was Racing, Perpignan, and Oyonnax in. And it was a bit of a struggle, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go Raka. That fits my vibes, Bill. Fullback to top this off.
Right. This is the most egregious one of the centrally selected.
By a mile.
The top 14 fullback of the year with 6 starts in a mere 6 appearances, 4 games in the regular season was Blair Kinghorn. Yeah, I love Blair Kinghorn as a Scotland fan. He looks like a great bloke. He's a brilliant player. It is an absolute shambles that he is in the top 14 team of the season because he was brilliant. Something like he's not lost a game at Toulouse or something like that. Great, but a lot of that game time is in the Champions Cup or in big finals, and I'm a regular season man. A lot of players did the hard graft. Malia and Ramos and Labelle, actually a bit of 15, did the hard graft for him to get to Toulouse to that home semi and then the that big victory in the final.
Yeah. All right, 15 though, that regardless of the egregious selection of Blair Kinghorn, there's some good options here. Like Leo Barre got called up to got his first start, didn't he, for France. Niniashvili is just an absolute freak show. I didn't go either of them.
Okay.
So I've gone a little bit, maybe a little bit left field, but someone I thought had a brilliant season, and was unlucky, really unlucky not to tour, was Czech Tibergian.
Okay.
At Bayonne.
Yeah.
I just think every time I saw him play, he was class. So I went for him.
Got the whole package, I think.
And a
great
cool
left
name
boot
as well.
Yeah. I went for Niniashvili.
Yeah.
But although I was very close to picking Tommy Allen.
Tommy Allen was
because he was scoring
excellent.
tries and again, when Perpignan were not going well, he was kicking everything. And that really helped him get back into it. And he was playing some great rugby. Like I've never knew he had that in his locker. But I went Niniashvili just because when he played, he was just phenomenal.
Yeah. The other guy who I don't think was nominated on that list, and I don't think either of us have mentioned there, is Buros.
That was who I was thinking. I was thinking there's a name that I haven't thought of that's not on that list that came up while we were doing this. Buros, I think, was the best fullback in the league this season, in my opinion.
What? So you think he goes at 15?
Have we now got too many Bordeaux players?
Maybe, yeah. Should we go Niniashvili?
Let's go Niniashvili. Got 3 Leon
players. I think that's fair. And I think probably, I feel like if this side really turns it on, it's yeah,
quite
I like it.
3, that isn't it?
Quite a back 3.
Penaud,
Right, should we go?
We've gone for. Hang on, who have we got at 10? Oh, we got Joe Simmons kicking goals, so we don't need Tommy Allen's.
We've got it's a pretty robust midfield, and then absolute carnage out wide, which is probably quite a good balancing act, particularly in the top 14.
And you've got Joe Simmons able to wing it across both centres, straight to the wingers. So yeah, and
then you can get Makalou to stand in on the wing as well for the Joe Simmons MBE crossfields.
Yeah.
Right. So to summarise, the Rosbif Rugby Team of the Year, loose head prop is not Lucas Ray. It is Jerome Ray, who doesn't play in the Premiership football. Maxime Lamoth, Ben Tamafuna, David Ribbons, Tom Staniforth in the second row, Lenny Nucci, Sekou Makalu, and Tavita Tatafu make up the rest of the pack. We've got the highest try scorer and point scorer in Baptiste Quiu and Joe Simmons in the centres. Jan Serfontaine, Jeremy Ward, bit of a South African flavour. And then we've got all hell breaking loose at the back with Alvaretti Racket, Damian Pano, and David Niniashvili.
I like it. Can I make one quick change? Can we go for Oviedo at 8? So that we've got a Perpignan player in there because they were great, and we've got a lot of Bordeaux players, and they got humped in the final.
Yeah, we can. That's fair enough. Perpignan had a brilliant season, so it feels like they should be represented.
And they've got great kit. So for the bars option, we need their socks involved.
Yeah, nice touch. Yeah, Joaquin Oviedo makes it. Sadly, no Toulouse players make our team of the year.
Oh, what a shame.
For various reasons. Right. We got there. Back in a moment for a very special edition, apparently, of Petit Fours. Petit Four time. I'm a little bit light this week, it must be said, but I gather, Rob, you've been doing some research, you've been doing some reading. You've got something special for us / me, which I'm slightly worried about.
So, Richard, this Sunday, just gone, the Tour de France finished. And over the last couple of years, Richard and I and a few of our mates play a annual predictions game every year, which has about 40 or so different categories these days, one of which is Tour de France winner. So I've found myself getting more and more into the Tour de France, and also by virtue of Rosbifs Rugby, just embracing my love of France even more. So I found myself watching and getting into the Tour de France. Now, as much as I've enjoyed getting into technicalities of cycling, the winning, I don't think I'd be quite as keen on the Giro d'Italia or the Vuelta a España, or the Tour of Britain, as the Tour de France. And also the Tour de France website has, for each part of the route, each start and finish point, it has basically facts about that town, which is a real treasure trove of local cuisines, information about local economy and culture, famous personalities. Not many rugby players in there, but when you're battling against Henri Matisse or Charles de Gaulle, I think Damien Penaud doesn't quite make the cut, does he, against kind of some of the titans of French history and culture. However, Richard, I've managed to just about keep my head up in the of going down the rabbit hole of diving into all of this stuff. And I've got a little quiz for you of 7 questions that may or may not be related to how much information I was able to find, or it may or may not symbolically represent the number of Tour de France titles that were stripped from Lance Armstrong. Make your own mind up as to why there are 7 questions. But are you ready? Play along at home, listeners.
Okay. All right, let's go.
Okay. Mâcon was the starting point for stage 6 of the Tour de France. But what division do AS Mâcon Rugby play in?
They're not. There's a team that begins with M that have just been promoted to National. So what's the one below that? National 2.
You're going with National 2.
And they've just gone into National.
You are correct.
Unbelievable.
It's said on the website National 2, so I think you might be right. Needless to say, very easy to get distracted on the Mâcon page. There are a lot of wine festivals coming out of Mâcon. So stage 6 started in Mâcon, but it ended in Dijon.
Just quickly, that is a hell of a start from me there.
Yeah, great start. Ended in Dijon, Mâcon to Dijon. That is a culinary trip, if ever I've heard of one. And obviously the home of Dijon mustard. So you could, maybe there's a double in there for or what derby game that is, or maybe we've just been deprived of it, but Macon Rugby versus Stade Dijonais. But question is, which French Petit Général, who started his senior career at Bourgoin in 2006, had his formative years at Stade Dijonais Côte d'Or, as the full name is. So they're currently in National 2.
So started their professional career at Bourgoin.
Bourgoin, which is not a million miles away, in 2006.
So Petit General, scrum half. So that's how long ago is that? That's 18 years ago. So they've probably just finished their career or just hanging in.
There will be people from that deduction screaming on their commute.
Oh no, I was going to say because he's Basque, isn't he? Machinot.
Machinot is Basque, yeah. That's why he's back at Bayonne.
But he's like late 30s, isn't he? Machinot.
Mm.
Who I'm trying to think who finished maybe like pre-Dupont.
You've got it nailed. You've got it so right.
Like Toulouse Board.
No, bigger name than that.
Bigger name.
But smaller bloke.
Morgan Parra played at Bourgoin.
Correct. I'll give you half a point for that.
Fair.
Morgan Parra started at Stade Dijonais Côte d'Or.
Nice.
Now,
okay.
Richard, I reckon you might struggle with this one, and this is arguably the one that you should know the answer to.
Okay.
Stage 12 started in Aurillac, but what is the full name of the town's Pro D2 rugby team?
Stade Aurillacois.
That's half of it.
Or Union Sportif Stade Monde Aurillacois.
So it connects it, as a lot of French teams do, to the local region, which seems to be, if you look at the Aurillac page, seems to be abundant with all sorts of cheeses and stuff. It is Stade Aurillacois Cantal Auvergne.
Ah, okay. Okay. So I'm on 2 out of 3 with a couple of half. Is that half mark?
1.5 out of 3. Given how you went on the Morgan Parra question, I think you're going to get this without actually saying his name.
Okay.
Which French back rower, who is the brother-in-law of Raphael Ibanez and finished his career at London Irish in 2007, is from Aurillac and started his career there?
French back rower.
Yeah.
Played at London Irish.
Yeah. Couple of years at London Irish just before he retired.
Oh my God. That's...
In 2007, he retired.
No, I think I'm going to take way too long to think through that, and it's not going to be good listening. I'm going to have to throw in the towel on that one.
I feel like this guy was a bit of a hero of mine growing up when I played 7. Olivier Magne.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize. I had no idea he played for London Irish.
No. If I'd said he played in an Optimum scrum cap, that would have been an
that would have helped.
Clue.
And once got filled in by Phil Vickery, I seem to remember.
Did he?
Not filled in, as in he got absolutely smoked it was like kind of 2001 era at the turn of the baggy shirts, just big. Who I think Phil Vickery might be wearing an Optimum scrum cap as well.
Probably, yeah. So Aurillac stage 12 was the start of started in Aurillac. Stage 12 finished in Villeneuve-sur-Lot, the home of RC Villeneuvois. But which big cat features in the name of their rugby league team who play in France's Elite One Championship? Villeneuve-sur-Lot.
Which big cat?
So that's kind of between Aurillac and between Aurillac and Pau and Agen, basically.
Oh my God.
This big cat. Just name a big cat. It's got no link to the region.
A puma.
Incorrect. The rugby league team from Villeneuve-sur-Lot are the Léopards d'Aquitaine.
God.
You're struggling here, Rich. Right, here's
Yeah,
another one
this
that
is
you may
difficult.
or may not get.
I mean, that's a ridiculous question, by the way. That is pure guess.
You mean you don't know your Elite One Championship Rugby League?
No, not their animal mascots. No.
No, that's the name of the team. It's
Oh,
called
okay.
Leopards d'Aquitaine.
Oh, fair. That's very rugby league, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay,
Uh,
fair play.
Aquitaine Leopards. Stage 13 started in Agen. The
Okay.
town's most famous son is, of course, Philippe Sella, who played his whole career at Agen. But how many caps did he win for France?
I mean, uh,
He was once the record cap holder
I'm gonna go
in
like
World Rugby, so that's not that
a
ridiculous.
hundred, but not much more. Like 103.
I'll give you half, 111.
Not bad. Not
It's not
bad.
bad, but he was the record cap holder before Jason
Yeah.
Leonard.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Um, Final one.
And
Which
apparently
town?
still lurks around the club, according to Zach
Yeah.
Farrens.
Which town, which has a top 14 side, calls
Ooh, okay.
itself the capital of the tour?
The
This is real.
capital
This is really obvious when you know the answer. I will say
is
that.
is it well the capital of the tour, would that be you said town,
It's
right?
Yeah, it's not Paris.
It's not Paris.
Didn't even
Okay.
go to Paris this year. This was
Um
on the route this year, and is
uh
generally on the route.
okay, so a town that I know is very frequently on the route and could be the capital is very, or at least parts around it be very hilly, would be Po.
Correct.
Yes.
As the kind of setting off point from the Pyrenees, which look beautiful in the footage, but absolutely brutal if you're trying to cycle up it on a bike. So, Rich, you got 3 out of 7 if you include your halves. Not bad, not bad.
Nice.
I avoided putting in the names of French rugby union players that became prime ministers and stuff like that.
Nice.
But yeah,
That's not bad. I feel like, with the exception of Olivier Magna, I had a pretty decent stab at ones that I could have got,
yeah.
if that makes sense. The first question, what was the place called? Marcon?
Macon, as in Macon Village, the wine.
How's that spelled? M as in
M-A with the hat, C-O-N.
okay, interesting. So the team that I saw earlier, so my guesswork where I got the right answer, but the logic was completely incorrect. So I was looking at the National fixtures earlier to see if, when Harlequins play Toulon, if Carcaran Hier are at home the same weekend, which sadly they are not. But that weekend, the weekend Saturday, 11th of January, Bourgoin, who you've just mentioned there, are at home to Marc en Barul, which I have just looked at, and on a map, I'd never heard of it, and therefore I'm going to assume they came up last year. Marc en Barul is a suburb of Lille, right up, yeah, near between Lille and Roubaix. So
very nice.
yeah, the northern takeover continues. But very well done, very well researched. Kind of more enjoyable than I thought. Hopefully, not too much of an excruciating listen. I'll keep an eye out for people shouting Olivier Magna on the tube over the coming days.
Or Morgan Parra.
Morgan Parra.
It's Morgan Parra. You've got it, Richard. Have you got any other Petit Fours?
I've got one.
Go on.
I'd forgotten about it. It's a momentous one. Scotland played Chile the other day.
I thought you might go with this.
And it was the final involvement of one of the greats of French rugby. The main man, the king of refereeing, Mathieu Reynal, hung up his whistle after an esteemed career of just being fabulously aloof. Sometimes a really good ref, sometimes just utterly baffling, everything you want. And he celebrated this. I don't know who took the picture. I don't know where it was. I assume it was in Santiago, somewhere in Chile. Shades on, in the dark, smoking a Pietro Malvaca size cigar, just looking like the absolute king. And
the caption was just the end. On his Instagram story. It was that photo with the end in like plain text. Amazing.
Yeah, we salute you, Mathieu. I hope that there's got to be. You would think he'll be on French TV or something. Like he's too good value not to be. He's like what a guy. And anyone who can be like that, I think that well liked, but also so universally infuriating. It's just a hell of a combo. Yeah, thank you. Merci, Mathieu. What a boy.
I had a few others, but I feel like that's a good one to end it on.
Should we leave it there?
Yeah, that was beautiful stuff. We can tie in the other stuff because a few of them are fixtures, so we can tie that into our fixture special, which is probably going to come next week.
Perfect. Let's do that then. Great. Thank you for listening. We've been the Rosbifs Rugby podcast. Rob, where can you follow us?
At Rosbifs Rugby on X, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And obviously this podcast, if you subscribe, is good. Add notifications. I quite like getting a notification when I have uploaded the podcast, and then about 15 minutes later, I get a little ping on my phone, a new episode from Rosbifs Rugby. But yeah, give us a rating while you're at it as well. Yeah, and interact, message us. We're keen to chat to you guys.
Keen to spread the word. I've been Richard. That has been Rob. We have been at Rosbifs Rugby. In the weekend that Mathieu are now signed off, we'll say merci, Mathieu, and merci and au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.